Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Cameron. Let me know that you guys can hear me okay and see me okay. I assume you guys can see me okay, but let me know if you can hear me okay. I've had a little bit of technical issues today. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Looks like we got quite a few people here today, which is awesome. Awesome. This is all good. Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. Yep. Okay, cool. Okay, so guys, this is the first of what I'm calling Motion Science Live, and I'm going to start doing these on Tuesdays. It's not going to be every Tuesday, but as many Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern time as I can fit into my schedule. I'm going to show up here live, and I'm going to talk to you guys about some good stuff. So, hey, it's great to see you, Kermit, Mo, David Cruz, Alexander, Eva, Blacksmith, Alexandra. Hey, what's going on, man? Grafin. Devix, what's going on, Devix? 550, Dan Lewis, all right. What else we got? David Cruz. Okay, awesome. Okay, so I'm not gonna talk for a whole long time here. Adrian said, not the best time to go live with Adobe Max. I don't care, right? I'm not Adobe Max. I'm here to teach you guys some stuff. So what I'm going to talk to you guys about today, just briefly, and I'm going to open up for some questions afterwards, is I want to talk to you guys about, I'm not going to do any screen sharing today. I'm going to talk to you guys about how I got started in motion design, because I get asked a lot, like, how do I get started in motion design? Maybe you're brand new to motion design and you've never been in motion design professionally. Maybe you're in it doing motion design, but you want to up level maybe your job or what you're doing, or change your direction in motion design. So I get asked a lot, like, how did I get from zero to hero? Basically is what I would say. I just came up with that. But as in terms of hero, I would say as a professional, right? And a professional is anybody who's getting paid to do motion design. So before I jump into that, I want to know from you guys, does anyone here remember the first motion design piece that you ever saw, that, or even more importantly, like, that you noticed, right? Like, you saw this piece and maybe it was on TV, maybe it was on the web, and it just kind of blew your mind and you're like, what is that, right? You didn't know what motion design was yet, but you saw this piece and it kind of opened your eyes to, like, okay, this is what motion design is. I want to know how to do it. Excuse me. So what is that piece for you? Right? For me, it was the movie Seven, the title sequence to Seven. I hear that a lot as well from people who follow motion science, that they saw the movie Seven. This was a title sequence that came out in 1995 that blew my mind, right? So let's see, what'd you guys, Anda says 3D camera tutorial. Awesome. That's a good one. That's the first piece I ever put out there. Dan Lewis 557, like a lot of people. Amazing. Jvenji, 7 title sequence. Amazing. Ricardo, yes, MTV and HV1 commercial cuts. Yeah, MTV for me was hugely influential, made a huge impact on me, especially back in the day. No, it doesn't, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be one of my pieces. I hear a lot too that 3D camera techniques has, inspired a lot of people. Ricardo, VH1, okay, VH1 and MTV. 7, Too Advanced website back in the day. TV movie intros from the 80s for all my favorite shows, Star Wars, Star Trek, etc. Carnival, yeah, Carnival's a good one. We actually made a title sequence based on that title sequence in one of our mini courses here at Motion Science. True Detective, yes, amazing title sequence. I was fortunate enough to get to work with many people who worked on that and who designed that. It was a good buddy of mine. Catch Me If You Can intro, mid-80s MTV, yes. Tom and Jerry, okay, that works too. Mine, like I said, was the movie Seven, the title sequence 7. But I'll get back to that in a little bit because I have a good story about how 7 was influential to me and how it kind of came full circle to me. So who am I? If you don't know who I am, my name is Cameron Piron. I have 20 plus years of experience in After Effects. Started in After Effects in 1999. Okay, so I've been working in After Effects for a long time. I started my first motion graphics company in 2003 with my very best friend, very small company. In 2005, 2 years after that, I went through some really rough patches in my life, my personal life. So I decided to quit that company, even though I was doing really well. And I went to work for a regional company doing motion graphics. In 2006, 1 year later, I was still working for that company, but I started moonlighting for a variety of companies, just kind of moonlighting, freelancing on the side, kind of see what else was out there. Then a year later, I became a remote freelancer. 2007, became a remote freelancer. Back in that day, remote freelancing was something that people were like really questioned. Like, how can you be a remote freelancer and work for these companies? You have to be there. And that wasn't me. I kind of bucked the system and it worked. And my very first remote freelance client was Kyle Cooper. And he is the guy who created the 7 title sequence. So in 1995, I saw the 7 title sequence. I sat on it for 4 years, just kind of being inspired by it. And then in 1999, I saw another piece that really inspired me, and I kind of jumped in and started learning After Effects. And then in 2007, here I am working for Kyle Cooper. So pretty amazing experience for me. And then last thing about me, I went on as a freelancer to work for some amazing clients. I worked for 343 Industries, Amazon, CMT, CNN, Dell, Discovery, Disney. I'm just going through a list here. Microsoft, MGM, MTV. I did work for MTV on many occasions. The PGA, RCA Records, Sony, Sci-Fi, Xbox, WWE Network. The list goes on and on. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of big clients. So I've had a lot of professional experience in motion design. So I didn't go from no experience to a pro overnight. And that's just really important to realize, because a lot of people come to me and they say, well, I want to be a professional right now. And you have to understand that it takes some time to get into that world. You have to start somewhere, but the more you practice, the better you're going to be, the quicker you're going to get better at this, at motion design. So you guys are fortunate enough to have things like courses, YouTube, online mentors to really push you. Back when I got started, there was none of that. Okay. So how I got started was I bought a book on After Effects. There was one book at the bookstore, and I can't remember the name of it. I can remember the cover of it, but it was the only book at the time about After Effects. And what would happen is, like, I would go to my day job. Every day I had my day job. I would work at the day job. I would come home. I had a baby boy at the time, and I would come home. My wife would leave for work, and I would take care of the baby boy. And after I did all my dad duties and he was asleep, I would open up my After Effects book and I would start studying After Effects, right? I would just read through this book. And it was more on the technical side. So when I started in motion design, it was really more on the technical side of things. I didn't understand design. Never took a design course in my life or a class, anything, just no design experience, but I started learning the technical side of it. And I did this 5 to 6 nights a week. Like I stayed up super late. I studied as much as I could and just absorbed as much knowledge as I could. Now, this was before the days of YouTube. So like I said, this is to date myself. This was back in 1999, 2000. YouTube didn't come around until 2005. So I would just study everything I could in this one book. And then I would look for blog posts online. There was a few of them, like Creative Cow and things like that, that I would go to and get some additional information from. So keep in mind, in order for me to really take what I was learning about After Effects and put it into practice, I had to have a computer, and I didn't have a computer. Okay. So I managed to get a credit card, and it had a $2,000 limit on it. And I took out a $2,000, I had this credit card, and I bought my first Apple computer. Now, $2,000 at that time was a significant amount of money to me. It was 2 months of salary for me. And at that time, I was supporting my baby boy and my wife. And in reality, it took me over a year. I knew it would take me over a year to pay off that Apple computer. But I knew I had to take a risk. I had to have I had to put some skin in the game. I had to take a risk. And I couldn't really practice After Effects without a computer. So I bought that computer. And again, 5 to 6 nights a week, I would come home and now I would start practicing on the computer what I learned in this book. I also started creating spec work, okay? And for any of those who have listened to any talks I've ever given about spec work, I'm a huge believer in it, right? If you don't create spec work, I believe that it takes you a lot longer to get better at this craft, right? To get paid for what you do. So I started creating spec work, and it was as many different things as I could think of to create. And I'm talking about like logo animations for made up companies. I would do title work for made up companies, simple, just random animations with shapes and things like that. And I built my very first demo reel. And it was all spec work, right? It was 100% spec work. No clients were paying me to do this. No clients hired me to do this. I just built a basic 1.5-minute demo reel of spec work. And what I did with that first demo reel is I sent it off to multiple companies. And guess what? I got rejected every time after time. One company actually tried to hire me. They brought me in. I drove like hours away to this interview. And I found out that they actually wanted to hire me as an editor based upon my demo reel, because like the timing was really great to music, and I was kind of taken back by that. Nothing against video editing, it just wasn't what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to be a full-time motion designer. So the next best thing is I decided to start my own company, as I mentioned earlier, with my best friend. So we started a little post-production company. He did the video shooting and editing, and I did the motion graphics. So we were mixing motion graphics with video. We were working for different corporate clients. We did that for 2 years. And, there was some okay jobs in there. A lot of the jobs were real boring, I guess I would say. They paid the bills. There was a few pieces throughout the 2 years that I was like, okay, this could be a demo reel worthy track or piece in my demo reel. Excuse me. So for 2 years, I did client work with my little company, and I created more spec work. I knew that if I wanted to go to that next level, I had to create more spec work and keep pushing myself. That's why spec work is so important. You keep pushing yourself. You keep doing what you love to create. You keep making that, but you push yourself, you learn more, and you get better, right? So 2 years into this company, like I said, I had some personal things come up. I went through a divorce, and I decided, because of the finances of the divorce, that I should end my tenure with this company. I also didn't want the company to be involved in the divorce, and I would go work for a post-production house. And there was a big post-production house in the city I was living in, which was Kansas City. It's in the middle of the US. And I built a second demo reel. So now I'm on demo reel number 2. And as I mentioned, it was full of spec work. I had a little bit of client work. I sent that off to this post-production house, and they immediately hired me. It was pretty much like, no questions, like, hey, we want to offer you a job. We want to offer you this amount of money, which was a huge pay raise for me. And I knew at the time, I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. I knew I didn't want to work for somebody for the rest of my life. That's me personally. I like to be my own boss. Nothing wrong with you working for somebody else. So I went to work for them for 2 years. And during this time, I again kept creating spec work. So my work that I was doing to get paid to do for this company was improving. I was now doing regional commercials for like the lotteries, for internet companies, for cell phone companies, political campaigns, things like that. So my work that I was doing to get paid for was getting better, but I knew I could still push myself even further doing spec work. So that's what I did. I made even more spec work, worked at this company for 2 years. at the end of 2 years, I put a third demo reel together. Okay. Now I'm on demo reel number 3. And excuse me, I still have a cough. I decided that it was time, and I should mention, while I was working for this company, I was also doing a little bit of moonlighting on the side, which, if you don't know, moonlighting is like having the day job, coming home at night, freelancing a little bit on the side for various clients, nights and weekends, making extra money. The work wasn't amazing, but it provided some significant cash flow. So that's why I was doing it, plus the experience. So 2 years into this job, third demo reel's done. It's full of mostly spec work. And I sent it off to one person, and that one person was Kyle Cooper, who, bringing you back, was the guy who created the 7 title sequence. Within 1 hour of sending that demo reel off to him, he called me on the phone. I was very nervous, super nervous. And he offered me a freelance position, a remote freelance position, working on an HBO show. And man, like, that was life-changing. I said, I'm done with my job, gave him my notice. I think it was a 1-week notice, walked out and went remote freelance, and the rest was history, right? So from that point on, here I was working for Kyle Cooper, for Danny Yount, for Digital Kitchen. There was a huge list of agencies, post houses I worked for at that time. And it was really interesting because I was a remote freelancer, like I said. Everyone else was in New York, Chicago, LA, Seattle. And here I was in Kansas City in the middle of the US, getting paid the same as everyone else, or sometimes more, because I asked a premium, and getting the same work and building better and better demo reels. So at that point that I went freelance, that's when I really considered myself like, this is the pro level I want to be at. And all it took was 3 demo reels. So my point here is that it's all about your demo reel. Okay. You don't have to have the most amazing clients paying you for this work to be on your demo reel. It's up to you to create that work yourself. It's up to you to create work that drives you, that is your passion, that creatively fulfills you. And when you create that work and you put that on a demo reel and you put that demo reel out to the world, someone out there is going to see that reel and be drawn in by what you've created on that reel, and they're going to hire you and they're going to pay you to create that same work for them, which in turn means that you get to create this work for them. That work goes on your demo reel and your demo reel gets better, and you keep evolving that way. Now, maybe you're happy with creating one demo reel and going to work for, a local company that, like when I first started in video production, before I was really into motion graphics, I was writing, directing, producing, and editing commercials for TV. But I was doing pawn shop commercials, used furniture store commercials, car dealership commercials. And my friends that I worked with were very happy doing that, right? That they loved it. That creatively fulfilled them. It didn't fulfill me, which is why I built demo reel after demo reel to keep moving up the ladder to get to pro level. So my dream, my goal was always to, working for Kyle Cooper was like, check it off the list. I mean, like, that was, at that point I went high level pro, and it was very creatively fulfilling to me. So it's all about your demo reel. So create spec work that you love to do. It will push you. You will learn how to become a better motion designer by working through these projects. You are going to learn tips and tricks that can speed up your workflow, that can just make you a better overall motion designer. So that's what I got for you for my content today. Just want to tell you how you can, anybody can do this, right? Back in the day, since YouTube and online courses weren't a thing, it took me a long time, right? It took me 7 years to go from no experience to hitting pro level with Kyle Cooper. It took me just a few years, 3 years actually, to go from no experience to having my own little company that did very well for itself. So in today's world, with having online mentors and courses like that we have through Motion Science or other online places, you can really speed up the time that is required for you to get to where you're getting paid to do this. I hear a lot of people push back online saying like, oh yeah, you can become a professional motion designer, but it takes years and years of experience and it's really hard work, and this is not easy to do. And I mean, some of that is true, but it does not have to take years and years of experience. It all depends on how much you're willing to push yourself, and if you get some of the tools that are out there to help you now, like with your online courses and mentors, that can really speed up your process. So that's what I got for you guys. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer for you here in the next few minutes before I hop off of here. I see a couple of people saying MK12. So I actually lived in the same city as MK12. They were in Kansas City as well. I never did work for them. I knew a couple guys through mutual friends. In fact, the guy I started my first company with in 2003, he actually used to work with MK12 as their video shooter. Great guys, great company, super inspirational to me. Alexander said he began Blacksmith. I began my motion design path with Video Copilot. Great place to begin. Gosh, if Video Copilot had been around when I started, that would have been sped up some time for me for sure. Definitely. Kermit was inspired. Let's see, let me pull up some comments here. Kermit was inspired by Disney's Black Hole title, MTV North by Northwest. Lots of Saul Bass. Amazing. That's awesome. I know when I worked for Danny Yount, Saul Bass was a huge influence on him. I never personally got into Saul Bass so much. Just wasn't my jam with the style, but there's so many things today created by Saul Bass. Influenced by Saul Bass, I should say. Farhan, Space Jam title sequence. I haven't seen that one. Is that the new one or the old one? Let's see here. Yeah, Kermit, ResFest, titles, music videos had a lot of influence on me late 90s, early 2000s. Same here, right? We're dating ourselves. But, guys, what's so cool about right now is I see a lot of the late 90s, mid-90s to late 90s work coming back. It's full circle, right? I'm seeing a lot of it come back in design and motion design. Things to do with grunge, that heavy texture, even color palettes, just kind of dirty work. It looks so great, and I'm so excited about it. Excuse me. I could get over this cold. Jay Gentry, you worked for Imaginary Forces. No, this was when Kyle Cooper had Prologue. So Kyle was involved with Imaginary Forces with, I can't remember who, and they split. Kyle created Prologue Prologue Films. That's when I came to work for them. So if you haven't checked out Prologue Films, check them out. They do amazing work. And Imaginary Forces, I absolutely love them. I never actually sent my reel to Imaginary Forces. So what I found was when I went the high level pro, I had a handful of clients, maybe 5, 6, 7 of them, and they kept me busy year round. And I was happy with the work I was doing for them, and didn't have a lot of time to reach out to other clients. So Imaginary Forces was always on that list. Highly respect what they do. Yeah, and David says reading books is a great way to improve your work. Yeah, there's some great books out there now. And I can't think off the top. There's one off the top of my head about style frame design that's really awesome. It's written by Austin something. Really great book. I'm not a huge reader of books now. Zahid, love your tutorials. Quick question. How do you charge a client? Is it hourly, by frame, or any other procedure? What is the best for a motion designer? So great question, Zahid. It really depends on how your client wants to work with you or what you put in place. Different clients expect different procedures. So I did work typically by the day. I would have a day rate. Never really by the hour. It was always by the day. And towards the end of my freelance career, because I did, to be transparent with you guys, I quit freelancing in My last one was in 2020 because I went full time with motion science. This motion science takes all my time now. At the end of my career, it was project rate if I could get it. Day rates vary depending on your experience, from $400 a day up to $1,000 a day is what I was getting sometimes. A sweet spot for me was $800 a day. That was when I was, higher level pro motion designer. So it just depends. You get more bang for your buck for you. Or I guess I shouldn't say that. You make more money typically when you're doing a project rate if you can work fast. So if someone gives you like, let's say they give you $1,000 and you have 2 days to work on it. Well, if it only takes you a day, you made $1,000 in a day. The client doesn't know that. If it takes you 2 days, it's $500 a day. So it just depends. But hourly, not so much. When I was designing style frames, and I guess I would say designing or animation didn't really matter. It's just there was a day rate or a project rate. It just really depends on how you want to work and how the client's comfortable with working. But I was always, straight up with my clients. Like if I was working with anybody new, I would just be like, hey, I charge this much a day. Does that work for you? Sometimes they would, we don't know. And like, if things were weird in terms of rates, I would always go to my client and say, I know that you have a budget in mind. The client has a budget. They know what they want to spend or they have to spend. It's up to you to get that out of them if it's kind of weird, right? If you just go to them and say, hey, my rate's $800 a day. I think it's going to take me 7 days to do this. They know 800 times 7 is this much. And you can go that route too. My first After Effects book was After Effects Apprentice. 2002. Wow, I don't remember that book at all. That's interesting. May have to go back and look at that one up. Your work is too good. If someone wants to work with you, how can join you? So there's a few different ways you can work with me. Number one, I have a free workshop at motionscience.tv. It's a free workshop. It's called The 7 Secrets to Cinematic Motion Design. I give you some really powerful tips in there. It's really short. I give you a special offer at the end for one of my products. If you are just looking for something free, go check it out. So there's my free workshop. I also have paid courses. If you go to motionscience.tv, you're going to see my courses there. They range in price. And I also have a community. And to be part of the community, you have to join Stylecraft. Stylecraft is my flagship course, and it's higher priced. But what Stylecraft does is it teaches you motion and design, and which is very important as a motion designer. I find that many motion designers know how to animate, but they don't know how to design. And if you want to be considered really good at this, you need to know both. It's very important you know both. You don't have to know, because I also see a lot of them, like they focus so much on animation, which is okay, but if you want to be like so good at animation, like maybe you're going into character animation. That was never my thing. So you don't have to know that much animation where it's like this crazy amount of detail. If you know the basics of animation and you know the basics of design, you can go far in motion design. So Stylecraft is where I teach that. And Stylecraft comes with a private community. And in that private community, I'm in there, along with a lot of other motion designers at all different levels of professionalism. And we're all there to support each other. And, if you have questions or if you want to show your work and get feedback, all that stuff, it's all within the Stylecraft community. Let's see here. What is your process for determining how much time will you invest in a project versus how complex or intricate the effects or project is? Great question, James. It just really depends on the project. When you've done this enough, you'll start to understand how much time it will take you. You never really know, right, until you jump into that project, because projects can be filled with intricacies and things pop up and things change from when you were hired to do it to when it actually finishes. I mean, that happens all the time. A project evolves. So it really just depends. You always want to err on the side of it taking longer than maybe it will, just to be safe. You don't want to overcommit to time, but yet you're not getting paid for that time. It also, depending on the intricacy of the effects, some projects aren't effects heavy. It really just depends on the project. But again, it can also come back to the client. If a client, if no one really knows how long a project's going to take, I will just say to that client, what is your budget? What can you spend on this? And when they tell me that number, it's up to me to decide, okay, based on that number, I think I can get it done, or I can't get it done. It just really depends. DMC, still want to get your Stylecraft masterclass. I hope to see you in it. I love engaging with everybody inside the Stylecraft community. It's awesome. Should spec work feature recognized brands, movie titles, or better to invent our own names? That's a great question, JW. I typically stayed away from recognized brands if I'm putting that reel out to the world. Just because I don't want to, things today, if you have someone's logo in there and they catch it, like, YouTube's got a lot of algorithms. They can see things. They may say it's copyrighted material, and you don't want that to happen. You don't want to spend a ton of time on like a Coca-Cola logo or a Nike logo and then find out that, oh, they've pulled it down. I'm not allowed to see it. It's just something that you have to, weigh the risks. In terms of music, I don't use any copyrighted music anymore because it'll get pulled down. I use Epidemic Sound, Audio Jungle, a couple other places for the music track for my reel. But, spec work, when I first started, I was creating fake company names, fake logos. It's easy today to find logos out there that are, just created like on Envato Elements, Free Pick. There's a lot of other sites that have them, just fake companies. You could take something like that and animate it. That would probably be a safe bet. You could try and use a big brand, logo, and maybe you'll get away with it, maybe not. You have to, I would think that even like Nike, right? There's so many pieces of content out there with Nike that maybe it wouldn't be an issue to put that in your spec piece. And when I did movie titles, I would make up names, right? Sometimes I'd include my own name. I would take my friends' names and flip flop them, first and last names, and do that kind of stuff. Philippe. And if I pronounce your guys' names wrong, I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry. I'm a fan of work and motion science. Is there any Black Friday promo coming? It's quite expensive here in Brazil to get your master classes. Yeah, there's a deal coming. I'm not going to say what it is, but there is 2 deals coming for Black Friday. We're still working out the details, which is why I can't really talk about it because things can change. If you're looking for a discount on a course, take the free workshop at motionscience.tv. It's a huge discount on the After Effects courses, After Effects 1, 2, and 3. At least at the time of this recording, that's what the deal is. That can always change too. Good times. Just want to say thank you for all the content you put out to the world. Appreciate that. And like I said, guys, I am going to start showing up on Tuesdays as often as possible and doing lives like these. Daniela, I'm so interested in starting my career as a motion designer. What would you recommend to beginners? Start learning and start creating. That's where the spec work comes from. Make yourself a creative brief. All right. I have a mini course that's coming out. It's not out yet, but it probably will be very soon. It's how to create your own creative brief for spec work. And because there is an art form to it, but if you don't want to get wrapped up in that, just kind of give yourself some creative constraints. I have a YouTube video called something creative constraints. I can't remember the full title, but if you type in creative constraints, motion science, it should pop up. Excuse me. It's important to have creative constraints. If we have a wide canvas, it can really screw things up and put us into locked up mode. So give yourself some creative constraints. Maybe take a logo, maybe start with a logo animation, right? If that's what interests you. Now, I also want to say, you want to do work that you're passionate about. So if you, Daniela, if you've seen, like, for instance, if logo animation really jazzes you, do logo animation. If title design really jazzes you, do one shot from a title sequence. Don't focus on an entire title sequence. Make one shot, because remember that demo reels are filled with quick shots, right? At the most, they're 3 seconds, maybe five. There's nothing over 5 seconds long typically. So make one shot, make 2 shots. That's it. Maybe make 2 shots from a title sequence. This scene and this scene, they look a little, they're in the same world, but they're different, and they can be used in 2 different places in your demo reel. I see motion designers get caught up in like, oh, I want to do title sequences, so I have to make an entire title sequence. Don't do that. Focus on 1 or 2 shots. If particle effects is what jazzes you, make a particle scene, using particles like trap code particular, stardust. If 3D is your thing with particles, X particles. There's so many different ways. If typography is your thing, make a typography piece. If color is your thing, show off your color skills. Just start, absorb as much content as you can. I would highly recommend motion science, right? I mean, that's why I'm here. I think that the content that I produce is the best content out there for what I call cinematic motion design, right? I teach you high-level design and animation in a very kind of moody style. So check out the motion science courses. Definitely do that. But just start, create spec work. Do you make sound design for your video? I do not. I don't do anything custom. For me, sound is a huge driving influencer, inspiration for whatever it is I'm creating. So I love to go to Audio Jungle and find a specific track that once I gel with that track, I can riff off of it and design or animate to it. I don't do my own sound. Years ago, I dabbled in EDM music, producing it and using Logic Pro and things like that. So I know that world, but it's too time consuming for me to make custom music. So there's so much great music out there, sound design out there. It's easy just to grab packs and put things together if you need to. Okay, Mo, what do you like to do what do you do if you like to produce music and motion design? What does the path look like, or does it even exist? Of course it exists. There's like, immediately I think of like creating visuals for artists on stage, right? Like I love going to concerts and seeing, like for me, 9 Inch Nails has always been my favorite band since the 90s, since 1990. And if you go to their show, their visuals are just so great, right? Because you're listening to this powerful music and you're seeing what's created. That's a great merger of audio and visual. A lot of DJs today are looking for artists to produce their work. It's another revenue to go. I just went to an interactive art exhibit down in Miami, where you walk through these enormous rooms where the graphics, it's motion graphics that are moving around you. It's all put to music, right? The sound drives the visual. So those are just 3 examples right there off the top of my head. Touch Designer is an amazing program for taking taking visuals that are driven by audio. It's a different way of working. I don't know a ton about it. Look into Touch Designer. There's got to be more, but visuals for art for musicians is huge right now. It's only getting bigger. Design for Motion by Austin Shaw. That is exactly the book I was talking about. Thank you, Kermit. As an older designer, I worry about ageism. Thoughts? Okay, Todd. Well, I'm an older motion designer. I think I'm in the first. I consider myself, I think Chris Doe told me I was in the second group of motion designers. I think I'm in the first group, which when we started, we're in our 20s and we're chugging along, and then we hit 40 and we're like, wait, are they still going to hire us? I mean, yes, they're still going to hire you. You can move up in positions as well. You can move into creative director positions. Excuse me. You can continue in motion design. Why not? I have so many students in my Stylecraft course that are in their 50s, 60s. I have a couple in their 70s and one in his 80s. So, and they've had a variety of careers before this, and now they're learning motion design. And the guy in his 80s, he's getting paid. He's a freelancer, right? Doing motion design. So, take ageism out of it. I've dealt with that myself. Motion design is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yes, there's a ton of motion designers out there, but the request for motion design work is just exponentially exploding. Video content is king, and it's getting bigger. With video content comes motion graphics and motion design. So they're married hand in hand. It is getting huge, and it's only growing. So the need is there. How did you manage your energy to still learn after coming home from work? I feel exhausted. Learned so much from your tutorials. Awesome. Heart. Thank you. It was tough. I'll be honest with you. I had many, many late nights, and I just did what I needed to do because I had a passion to want to create more and more, and I wanted to make my life better, and I wanted to make more money while doing what I love to do. I'll tell you guys, when you get to the level of getting paid to do what you love to do, it's not considered a job anymore. It's awesome. I love what I do. Now mine has kind of evolved into teaching, but I still create. My passion is in creating, and I'm getting paid to create. So in the beginning, you may have to balance some things, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. Shadi, good evening. What's better to learn Java before expressions or just copy paste expressions? I copy paste expressions. I don't know a ton about coding. My friends ucramedia.com. Those guys are amazing with expressions. For me, my expression is wiggle, the wiggle expression. I use it for so many things. It can be used in so many different capacities that maybe you don't think about. I do teach a lot of that stuff with wiggle in my courses, in many of my courses. But I know the wiggle expression. If I need to know something more complex, I will go out and search it and copy paste. Jay Gentry, in 2021, how would you suggest to align yourself with a great artist? Cold emails, calls seem a little archaic. I mean, email is king still. I'll tell you that. People are tied to their emails. So maybe tied is not the right word, but email's king. Reach out, or, Instagram direct message, ask for, maybe if an artist, mentors, sometimes they're going to charge you for it. A lot of times they're going to charge you for it. Maybe they won't, maybe I don't know. It just depends, but you don't know unless you reach out. So, direct message through Instagram, email, all that good stuff. JW, really enjoying learning through Starcraft, so many visual techniques. Thanks, man. Or thank you. Hello from Russia with love. How do you deal with burnout at work? Thank you very much for 3D camera techniques. It helped me a lot at the time. Awesome. How do you deal with burnout? Well, I mean, it's called SelfCare. Man, SelfCare. So it's very, very important that you take care of yourself as well. We're all guilty of not taking care of ourselves. Like for me, self-care to me is working out at least 4 to 5 days a week. When I'm sitting here, I can get really tight and tensed up. It's important for me to work out to just feel better in my body. I also get massages all the time, right? I also see the chiropractor all the time. This is stuff I did not used to do when I was younger. My body paid the price. When I first started out, I had a lot of bad habits. But it's all about self-care. make sure you get plenty of rest. It's all about, for me, I've found that I have to, like, 8 to 9 hours is ideal for me for sleeping. I have friends that need 5 hours and they do just great. It just depends on who you are, but just have self-care. If you don't have self-care, you will burn out, and it won't be good. Giorgio, love your channel, really powerful stuff. Do you review people's reels to see if it's working on selling the presenter? I do not. Something I'm bringing into Stylecraft very soon is called Feedback Fridays, where I will be reviewing people's work from Stylecraft that eventually ends up on reels. I see most students, building projects in Starcraft, and it goes on the reels. And 550, who's on the chat right now, made an amazing demo reel, all based on Starcraft work. Something else. Well, I'm not going to mention that. In the future, I may do some group coaching for people, but at this time, I don't. I'm not looking to be pro level motion. I just want to have some skill to present my work to the client. So what is the best of your tutorial work for me? It really depends on what you want to do. My tutorials focus on technical processes. They focus on design, effects. It just depends. A pro level is, to me, is getting paid for what you do. That could be pro. You could be a pro level here. You could be here, here, here. I mean, there's all different levels of pro level. To me, that's just getting paid for what you do. Any chance that Starcraft will go on a discounted price? At this time, no. Starcraft is already pretty cheap, in my opinion. It used to go for a lot more money than it is now. I redid a lot of things for it, and it's still a heck of a deal. Cameron, thanks for all your lessons. Looking forward to Black Friday promotions. I'm waiting for an opportunity to jump into motion science courses. Greetings from Brazil, living in Portugal. Awesome. Yeah, and I should say, to the comment, Tio, Starcraft, I mean, there's a good chance Starcraft's going to have a discount on Black Friday. Like I said, things are not finalized, though. So I don't want to promise anything, but I'm seriously looking at that. Giorgio, I saw a tutorial you did with a gradual fade out. Can't find it anymore. Any help finding it? Yeah, I think that's in my workshop. If it has to do with fades to black, it's a really cool technique, fading to black, that most people don't think of, and it's very cinematic. Look at the free workshop, freeworkshop.motionscience.tv. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thank you. You're welcome, Todd. Awesome. Yeah, this video is going to stay up for a while. It will be up. Like I said, I'm going to start doing these on Tuesdays as much as possible. Loop out's a great expression, yes, and so is the time expression. So in After Effects Academy, I talk about those two expressions as well. It's just, for me, wiggle has always been like, it's so powerful for me. Thanks, I'm OG. Awesome, thank you. How do you deal with perfectionism deadlines? Well, okay, so I never miss a deadline. That's a great question. Never miss a deadline, ever. That is a big no-no. You don't ever want to, if you miss a deadline, I've hired freelancers for me that miss deadlines. They're never hired again. Every company I know that hires a freelancer who misses a deadline, they're never hired again. You don't miss a deadline. If anything, you deliver before that deadline. Perfectionism is, at some point you have to say, I need to let this piece go. For me, I typically do 3 rounds of revisions. Okay. And that means that I get the piece. Well, it really depends on the piece, how long the piece is. But a lot of times I get it to maybe 60% there, 70%, send it off to the client. And I let them know that, like, hey, this is over halfway in terms of how to look. I just want to get feedback, make sure everything's great, no major changes. If any revisions happen, great. If none, I keep moving forward. Then I get it to about 85% there, maybe 90% there. Again, how's it look? Great. Okay. Final revision is where I take it to that next level with my polish, the finishing effects, which I teach a lot of that in Stylecraft. That's what takes it to that next level. And typically a client, because everything's been signed off on, I do those finishing things. Client sees it, wow factor, done. So you have to allow the time in there for those 3 rounds of revisions. Sometimes it's less than 3. Sometimes it's 2. Sometimes it's 1. There's always some type of revision. I don't ever go beyond 3. If it goes beyond 3 rounds of revisions, there's extra money involved. Time is money. I have other clients typically waiting in the wings to work with me. And if a deadline's a deadline, if the client is going to try and move that deadline or push revisions, at that point, there's extra costs involved. Okay, that was the last question. So I'm going to wrap this one up. I want to say thank you to everyone who showed up today. It looks like there was a great turnout. Lots of great comments, questions. You guys are awesome. So I'm going to push you. If you haven't checked out a motion science course, please do. I promise you won't be disappointed. I put a lot of time and effort into these courses. I also have 2 other guys who help me with some of these courses, Ryan and Shannon. We have a very high level of quality, and we stand by that, and very proud of the courses at Motion Science. So check out the free workshop. You will get a discount on some of the courses right now. That's an incredible discount that it's not going to last forever. So again, thank you everyone for being here, for listening to me talk. Hopefully you learned something today. Hopefully you got something out of this. I hope that you did. And hope to see you guys next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern for Motion Science Live. See you guys very, very soon.